Okay, we are live now. As usual, we're giving it a couple of minutes for everyone to join in. Yes. And as usual, we just want to remind you, if there are any links that will be posted in the comments shortly, please don't click them. This is spammers. Don't give them your personal details. This is totally scam. We are trying to remove them as soon as we can, as usual, but if you miss it, just please don't click them. Good morning, everybody. Please try to ask where are you from? Where are you joining us from?
We have some people joining. Hello.
Hello.
You can tell us about the weather as usual. It's too hot here in Slovenia. It's too much, really. We expect 33 degrees Celsius today. I'm so looking forward to that.
They promised 40. Oh. Yeah, here too we have lots of storms, but next week we'll have the heat wave, I guess, that we're getting from Slovenia. 40 degrees.
You can have it. We are glad to send it over to you.
You can have it today. I mean, it's fine.
No,
yeah, we're here with Alja today, so there's two people from the tiniest country, but we will talk more about Alja a little bit later. If you guys are okay with it, we might start off this chat today, right?
Yeah, we have lots of people joining in. Oh, hello, Angela. Hello, Masha.
11.
That's wow, Slovenia is super hot in more ways than one, yes. Welcome everybody to the Smile English live chat. I hope you've heard of the Smile English project yet, but if not, our project is dedicated to changing our perception of a walk with a dog. We want to show the world a way of walking with dogs that's good both for dogs and for their humans. And on our Facebook, on our Instagram, YouTube, and the website, you can find lots of photos and videos of people having relaxed walks with their dogs on a long, loose, smiling leash. Along with that, you will also find lots of useful tips and interesting facts about dogs. So we hope you take a look, and we are always very happy if we get pictures and videos of you and your dogs having smiling leash walks. So since our project is mostly about walks in one way or another, we want to talk about walks today as well. But maybe we have a bit of a different angle today. We know that a lot of pet dogs have at least one longer walk each day. And that's a big deal. If something happens to us every day, it's something that usually influences us. And it's the same for our dogs. Walks that they have influence how they feel, what they learn, and how they behave generally, not just during the walk, but also at home and in different situations. Today we want to look at walks in terms of how they affect our dogs and their behavior, both in a positive way and also in a more negative way. So can walks influence behavioral issues? And to talk about that, we are here with Alja Willenpart. Alja is a dog behavior consultant from Slovenia, from Ljubljana. She started her journey into the dog world by volunteering at the local animal shelter, and there she was in contact with a lot of different dogs. A lot of them had behavioral issues of some sort. They could be reactive or fearful. That gave her additional motivation to learn more about dogs, about their behavior, about their body language. She studied with Ture Drugas and also Anlil Kvam, Amber Batson, and other experts. And she is, of course, still learning and attending different courses and seminars. Alja has been working with dogs professionally for the last 5 years. She works with different dogs, but a majority of what she does, I think, now is individual dog work with dogs who have some kind of behavioral issue. Her goal is to provide owners with a better understanding of their dogs, of their needs and communication, helping them build a strong bond with their dogs and solve any behavior issues they might be facing. Was that right, Alja?
Yeah, mostly. That's pretty much what I do.
Welcome to our chat. We're happy to have you here. We have lots of questions, and we will also be happy to accept questions from anyone watching, so just put them in the comments. But to start us off, Letty has the first question for Alja.
Okay. Hello, Alja. Really nice to have you here. So you see a lot of behavioral cases in your consults, and we would like to know if you see a pattern, or what is the typical way your clients are walking their dogs before they come to see you, right?
Yeah.
And maybe how this is affecting their behavior.
Mm-hmm. I'd say there is a bit of a pattern with, especially when we're talking about adult dogs with behavior issues. Sometimes with puppies, but not as much anyway. But I'd say the main, the common thing these walks have is they're too much. Either it's too much walking, or they're too long, or too much in terms of distance or time, or sometimes it's just too much for that individual dog in terms of what's going on during the walk. Like they meet maybe. We have a dog reactive dog that meets too many dogs on their walk, for example. So it can be either a distance length thing, or it can be a stimulation sort of thing. It's just basically they're overwhelming for their dogs. Maybe every now and then I do see the opposite, like the dog could use an extra walk or two, but that's rare. I'd say the majority of cases it's just the walks are too much.
Right. So obviously you're helping all your clients adjust these walks, don't you?
Yeah.
Once they come to see you. Yeah.
Yeah.
And can you give us some examples that maybe have happened to you that people can relate to?
Yeah. I mean, actually, the most common thing I say with walks is don't do it so much for a certain amount of time. I mean, don't get me wrong, dogs do need their walks, obviously. We can't lock them in an apartment and wait for them to be happy about it. But if you have a dog with behavior issues, usually the first thing to do is make everything less stimulating, and one of those things is definitely walks. So usually this means that with the client, we make the walks a bit shorter, or maybe we space them further apart. So instead of having one long walk, like in the afternoon, maybe we do several shorter ones during the day, or we rearrange their schedule in a way that maybe the walks are less stimulating in terms of, like, if you come home at 5 p.m. when everybody comes home, there's a lot going on, especially if you live in a densely populated area. So maybe in those cases, I don't know, maybe go for a walk a little bit later. When you come home, just take the dog out to pee, and then do your walk in the evening when there's not so much going on, when there's not so many people around, or change the environment, take the dog into the car, drive somewhere in a calmer area, and just think about your walks, basically, because if they're stressful for you, then they're certainly stressful for your dog, and think what you can do to just cancel the stress out. So if that means getting in a car, going in a calm place, and go for a walk there, one of the first things we do with dogs with behavior issues.
Okay. And one other thing that we would like to clarify for people, when you're advising people to adjust and change their walks, can you explain why is it important, even if the behavior that they are showing is completely unrelated to the walk? Why is it important?
Yeah, the thing is, if your dog finds his walk stressful, and actually every activity is stressful in a way. I mean, it can be good stress. You can go, out to a concert and you're having, if we're talking humans, obviously now, if you go to a concert, you're having fun, you're partying with friends, and you'll enjoy it, but it will be tiring. It will be, in a way, it will cause stress to your body, in a good way, but still it's stress. And if you add a concert to your holiday, so you've been off you haven't been to work in a week, you don't have any meetings, you don't have any real adult responsibilities and all that stuff, and you go to a concert, it's all fun and you're really enjoying everything. But if you have a very long month at work, full of meetings, full of, I don't know, clients, and things aren't going well, and everything's just in a rush, and now you're packing to get everything ready for your holiday, and now in addition to that you have a concert the night before you leave on a business meeting or something like that, then that concert is probably not going to have the relaxing effect it was supposed to have. It's just going to be one extra, task in your day that's just going to make everything more exhausting. And we should view dog walks in the same way. So the walk should be a nice, relaxing thing in addition to everything that's going on. But if it's just an added stressor, then all the stress hormones will just build up. You'll be generally more anxious, or your dog will be generally more anxious, more alert. He'll be, if the walks are too long and the stress is building up and there's too much of that, the body doesn't have time to recover from that stress. So they're constantly in a state of, okay, what's there? What's going on? What should I react to? Constantly in this sort of defense mode. So it's really common to then see reactive behaviors, anxious behaviors, fearful behaviors, because the dog is just not getting the time to relax. He's just constantly on alert. And that needs to be cancelled if we want to change his behavior at all. So.
Yeah. Thank you. Oh, that's very interesting. And I also work with behavior cases, and sometimes it's completely unrelated to walks directly, but like separation anxiety. But as you say, it's all really, really by one piece of one puzzle. And I often hear people saying we should tire the dog out, otherwise the dog is displaying all those behavior issues, is destroying the flat, or is just running around and cannot come down. So we have to tire it down. And they're really concerned that if we now, as you say, make it less, they'll see more of that, problematic behavior. So can you talk a little bit about why tiring, what it means, tiring the dog down, what it really means?
Yeah. I mean, in a way, it's true, right? If the dog is exhausted, he's gonna, sleep for a long period of time. But this isn't going to work in the long run, because if we're just working on the dog getting physically exhausted, he's gonna build up his stamina, basically. He's gonna get better and better, faster and faster, and he's gonna need more and more to tire him out in that way. And in addition to that again builds up stress hormones. And one of the things stress hormones do is they make it difficult for you to sleep. I mean, again, we can relate to that as well, right? If we have an important business meeting tomorrow morning, then tonight we know we have to go to bed early because I have to get up early tomorrow and sleep well, so I'll be rested for the meeting. And what I do is I stare at the ceiling until 2 a.m. thinking how I have to go to sleep because I have to wake up early tomorrow. And the result is I'm not sleeping, and then I'm more exhausted in the morning, cranky, not thinking straight, even more stressed, and so on. And again, the same thing happens to dogs. So if we only use fast activity or long walks, or if we just want to physically tire the dog out, we'll just add to the stress, and the result is they won't be sleeping as well. Even if they'll be exhausted and they fall down and they kind of look like they're sleeping, they won't really be, because if you really look at those dogs, usually they're just resting. They will still, notice your every movement. There won't be a lot of REM sleep. There won't be a lot of dreaming, a lot of deep sleep that actually is needed for the brain to function properly. So, I mean, we have to look at this differently too. The dog, of course, I mean, it's nice to be nicely tired, right? From a lovely activity. Like if you go on a nice, relaxing walk in the nature to a new place, you go to, you have a picnic or something like that, and you come home, and even though you were just sitting around and doing nothing all day, you'll be really nicely tired. You just kind of lie down, watch a movie, and fall asleep. But if you're tired from a whole day of business meetings, again, I'm not sure why I'm talking about business meetings. I didn't have any in the last couple of weeks, but
maybe that's why.
But yeah, if you're tired from something that was really, that put a lot of pressure on you, then you won't be able to fall asleep. You'll be cranky. You'll be annoyed at everything. Every little thing is going to bother you, and you're just going to be a pain in the ass for everyone else as well, right? And again, it's the same with our dogs. So yeah, we should give them stuff to do that will make them happily tired, but that's usually nose work stuff, a lot of sniffing, exploring, calm activities. What I like to do with my dog is just sit down and observe, just do nothing. What we do at least once a day is we go out, we sit down in the grass for 10, 15 minutes. I mean, he's a 3-month-old puppy, so they're not, major walks or anything, but we just sit down and do nothing, and then we go back upstairs and he sleeps for 2 hours. Because there was so much going on. There's birds, there's, right now he's into bees, so he's working on just observing, not trying to eat them and stuff like that. And that's just his brain going 100 miles an hour. And when we come home from just being downstairs, he's exhausted. So,
yeah.
This is something we do tend to forget, that dogs get so much more information from the environment than we do. I believe that they do. All of the smells, it's amazing how much they get just from their amazing sense of smell, plus vision and hearing and everything. So they need to be able to process that. And if they're just running around madly, not thinking, first of all, they're missing out. And second of all, they can't process the way they need to process.
Yeah. It's really true, and I love how you draw the difference between being exhausted physically, when it's been too much, and being nicely tired. So maybe for our viewers, we can talk a little bit more of how we can recognize, what are the signs that it's been too long of a walk, it's been too taxing for a dog. What are the signs? How can we understand that?
Yeah. So during the walk itself, usually what you'll see is they start to maybe pick up things from the ground. Like if you compare in the beginning of the walk, they were mostly just sniffing or walking or just doing their thing. And then suddenly they just pick up every little thing they find. They may even start eating things that aren't edible. They may start chewing on their leash. Some dogs will just sit down and refuse to move, or they slow down. The more you try to kind of encourage them to come on, let's go, the more dog will slow down and just stop and stare at you and nope, I'm not going. Or what they sometimes do is they start to jump on their owners to just kind of tell them to come on, I've had enough, let's just go home. They will get more anxious in terms of, you may see like your dog was walking fine in the beginning, not reacting to anything, and then suddenly something shows up and he starts barking or he starts pulling. That's also very common. So walking nicely on leash for 10, 15 minutes, and then suddenly he starts pulling like crazy. I think those are some of the most immediate signs. Or digging holes is also one of those. Again, he could, in the beginning of the walk, he could sniff every little mouse hole he could find, and then suddenly he'll just start digging, and you're unable to get the dog away from it, and not paying attention anymore as well. So at first maybe the dog's responding to everything you say, he comes to you when you call him and stuff like that, and then suddenly he just doesn't anymore. Those are all signs that your dog is likely tired, or there's too much going on and he just can't handle everything anymore. So basically the bad behaviors happen right when the dog's tired.
And I have an interesting one. Recently happened to me. So a dog was not at all peeing or pooping on the walk, and we kind of came to the conclusion that the area was too much, too many stimuli around, and it's just the dog was too stressed to be in that area. And I think that's also interesting. Like, people don't pay attention to all those little things and think, the dog is just behaving badly, or like she just doesn't want to be. But yeah, it's not really normal. You need to think of the reason why why is it happening.
That's a very good one, actually, the peeing and pooping. Because then, sorry, I'll be talking about my puppy a lot because
do.
But I know with him, he's like that. He does pee and poop in new areas, but he needs a while. And today, this morning, we had puppy class, so he got to play with his classmates a little bit. And he was so busy playing and interacting with them that he didn't pee or poop there. So when we got home, the first thing he did was that, and now he's sleeping. So yeah, that's a good thing you mentioned. Yeah, it can happen.
or just peeing too much, like really everywhere, or just pooping too much. That's also a part of stress response. Yeah, so many things. So we really need to be paying attention to our dogs more, like trying to understand the reasons of why they're doing certain things or not doing. And yeah, we also want to again. We already talked about long-term consequences of this, but let's maybe repeat that again about like if we are having too long walks all the time, what are the long-term consequences?
Yeah, the thing is, so again, we're back to stress, and I'm not trying to make stress into a bad guy or something. It's a normal bodily response that gets you going through the day, right? But if there's too much of that, it'll start to cause like unwanted effects on the body. So one of the things that will happen is because a lot of cortisol starts to be produced in the body, which causes your body to be unable to rest properly. Your appetite changes. Either you don't want to eat anymore or you eat too much. So dogs may start in the long run losing weight or gaining too much weight. Your immunity is affected. So dogs that are chronically stressed may get things like allergies, ear infections, eye infections. So their body's compromised. So that will lead to health issues in the long run. It's not something you're going to see like tomorrow. But maybe if you have a dog that suddenly developed some allergies and you can't find a cause for it, or they're just scratching themselves, fixes that. Stress is one of the things that should be looked into, not just, is it this food or that food, or, it can be a bunch of different things together. So yeah, it'll also obviously affect behavior, because when you're stressed, you're unable to learn. Your body goes into survival mode. So basically you start relying on just your instincts pretty much. So it's all about the fight or flight sort of stuff. Again, same as with us, when we're tired, when we're overly stressed, we get cranky. We start, arguing with people. Nothing's right anymore. You come home and the kitchen's not perfectly clear, and now suddenly you're just screaming at the whole family that why didn't anybody clean the kitchen or something like that, because you had a bad day at work. It's got nothing to do with the kitchen itself. Maybe there's just a cup of coffee on the counter that somebody left there or something like that. So, and the same thing happens to dogs, because one of the first things that our body stops using when we're stressed is the prefrontal cortex. So that's the part of our brain that's responsible for rational thinking, for kind of controlling the way we behave, controlling our emotions. That gets shut off because we're in the survival mode sort of all the time. You don't need to think straight when you're in survival mode. You just have to, go, run, run away from the lion so you don't get eaten. That's sort of what we do. So yeah, it really does lead to a bunch of behavior issues. It'll be different for every dog, obviously. But I think we really do underestimate the effect that our day-to-day routines have on our dogs. We just tend to view, the problems like, okay, my dog's barking, how do I fix that? Shut up, sit down, go away, stop it. Rather than just kind of look at, okay, what's going on with you? Why are you suddenly behaving like crazy,
Yeah. And I can definitely relate to that. I get grumpy if I'm stressed, so I can definitely understand. And
who doesn't,
we've been
actually?
talking. Yes, that's true. And we've been talking a lot about too much, too long, too much sensory information, too stressful. But what about if we walk our dogs too little? Can that happen? And what is too little?
Yeah, too little. It's the same as too much, isn't it? It will depend on each individual dog and their environment and everything that's going on. But yes, there can be too little. Or, if you imagine the average dog, they live in a house or in an apartment, and we're away for work most of the day. So most of the day, there's nothing going on for them. And then maybe we're busy in the afternoon. We're just doing so many things, and we just don't have the time for our dog. And in the end, he just spends the whole day inside. Then we maybe go for a 20-minute walk just so he pees and poops, and then we go back in. For a dog like that, nothing happens all day. So the walk is maybe one of the most important things for him, right? That there's something going on. But I don't think there's a limit of how much is too much or too little. Obviously, they need physical activity. But if you have a dog that lives in a big house with a large garden, and he gets to explore the garden, observe the environment, spends time with you in the apartment, helps you cook and clean and all that stuff, you know, he's just all over the place all the time. Yeah, a dog like that won't really need a special walk, and it's going to be perfectly fine if you maybe even skip a day when it comes to walking. If you just want to spend the day inside and just cuddle with your dog, that's fine. But if you have a dog that lives in a small apartment where you're away from home most of the time and just nothing happens to him all day, he doesn't observe the environment, he doesn't get to, I don't know, bark at the neighbor's cat and just, you know, look at the birds and try to chase the bees all day and stuff like that, then obviously you do have to take him for a walk. I mean, if we have to, because I know people usually like some sort of a rule book or schedule or something like that. I would say in a day, maybe an hour and a half in total, or maybe 2 hours. It'll be a bit less for puppies maybe, or but let's say hour and a half to 2 hours if we count all the going out together. So we're talking the long walks, we're talking the walks that are just there to take your dog out to pee. That should total in, hour and a half, maybe 2. And that, again, it shouldn't just be walking, right? It should be a lot of observing, a lot of sniffing. I think that's also one of the things, right? When we say walk, what do we actually mean by and it's not about physical activity so much. Again, don't and before everybody starts charging us how, oh no, dogs have to be physically active so their bodies work normally. Yep, definitely they do. But they're actually really lazy animals. And, you know, if we look at what they've evolved to do, they mostly lie around, walk around, sniff, observe, and your walks should be mostly that. It's perfectly fine if they run around a little bit, if they play with other dogs. I mean, I'm not encouraging this, but even if they chase after a squirrel once or twice, it's not gonna, you know, don't encourage that. But, you know, that's the amount of activity when we're talking about running and stuff like that. That's what they need. Like every now and then, just a bit of, you know, zooming around, but then mostly it should be lying down, sniffing, looking at stuff, exploring new places. Same as us, pretty much, I think.
Yeah, I love what you said. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, I know when we go to the beach, for example, when we arrive, Rufus will firstly, you know, have a couple of runs because, you know, it's the excitement of getting there and whatever. And then he just comes down and starts, you know, exploring everything, comes and goes, but it doesn't run again, you know? It's like they choose to do that.
Yeah.
Rufus has a good life. So he has had the opportunity to kind of know how much he needs. And dogs, if they have the opportunity, they do. But some dogs don't. I was going to ask before we go on, because I remembered an example that comes up a lot. Do you get clients, Alja, that say, well, but my dog doesn't get tired ever, even when we come home after a long walk with running and playing fetch and everything, the dog is still running around the house or the apartment, so he needs an even longer walk, we think. Do you ever get clients like that? And what do you say?
Yeah, thanks for mentioning. That's typical. That's really typical, especially when it comes to reactive dogs. If your dog looks more full of energy after the walk than he was before the walk, then the walk was too much. And we can be talking like 5 minutes, or we can be talking 2 hours. Again, it will depend on each individual dog, but those are actually the side effects of the stress hormones, because if the walk was too stressful, the body's full of adrenaline, the body's in the survival mode I was talking about before, and they can't settle down. Again, think about annoying business meetings or stressful exams at the university or something like that. When you come home, or if you have an stressful phone call when you're just pacing around and tapping your feet and just clicking the pens or something like that. That's the same for dogs, and they'll get zoomies, they'll be unable to settle, they'll chew at everything, they'll be barking, they'll just be annoying. And that's, it's just a typical sign that the walk was too much. And when we start doing less, this will cease almost immediately for most dogs, unless in very, very severe cases. But for most dogs, it'll just suddenly stop when you stop walking so much.
Yeah. Or can I also add something and ask Kara? So when we were talking about so little, I think also people focus so much on physical activity and not mental. And I love that you mentioned that, the quality of walk for that. But I think people don't sometimes analyze the quality of their walks, and they say, okay, but we walked 3 kilometers, let's say, and that's enough. Yeah, but did the dog sniff during that time, or was he just dragged on the leash? So yeah, I love that you mentioned that.
Yeah, we don't really pay enough attention to our dogs, do we? We think we know what's good for them, and I'm no exception. I'm also learning with each client I get, each individual dog. It'll be a bit different because they have different lifestyles and. But yeah, generally, again, if we're just generalizing, the dog won't, if you let him lead the walk, most dogs won't really go far. They'll go maybe a few hundred meters away from the starting point, wherever that is, and they'll just be going there and back and this way and that. They won't do a full circle. They won't go from A to B and back. That's a boring walk for a dog. They'll go there and sniff at that, and then maybe they'll run past that area because they don't like it, and then they'll explore something else. So it's about variety, and it's about the choices to just sniff and explore, because that's the point of your dog's walk. Most dogs get enough physical activity by following us around the apartment and just going up and down stairs every now and then to go down to pee, or just, walking around in the garden, playing just a little bit. But that's mostly puppies and young dogs. They like to play. Older dogs don't really play as much. Again, I've got an example right here because I'm living with an adult dog. My flatmate's dog is an adult, and my puppy wants to play with her, but she's like, no, we're not playing. And, it can be a bit frustrating for him, but he gets enough chances to play with other dogs as well. And she's like 4, I think. And I mean, she does play sometimes, but mostly what we do is, again, we just go around and just lie down, observe a little bit, and that's fine. And while the puppy is just jumping all over the place and just being a puppy, she's just lying down, looking at him like, dude, what's wrong with you? And that's what dogs do. Most dogs do that.
Yeah.
I also want to comment on something. Like Rufus is an athlete. He is a really, really fit dog. If it was true that I had to walk him more and more every time, there was no way I would be able to keep up with him. So how are people having dogs that are calm, not by doing walking all the time? That's definitely, it's not going to happen for me. I'm aging and he's getting better and better at so.
Yeah. I remember there was a story in the news a while ago about a lady who had to leave her job because she got caught in this vicious cycle of walking her. I think she had 2 dogs, more and more. And really? She got up to 7 hours in a day. And of course, the dogs were not getting any better behaviorally. And she actually quit her job to be able to walk her dogs for so many hours. So you can't get anywhere like that, except you can make a problem worse.
And they get more fit faster than us. So
of course,
it's really not difficult to get your dog to be able to run for long periods of time.
And she had a medium-sized breed, a breed that is, can have lots and lots of stamina, and she got caught in a very vicious cycle. And I do hope she found someone to explain to her what was happening and to help her, reverse somehow. But you gave us already a few little tidbits about puppies. I wanted to talk a little bit more about puppies, and I suspect you do too, Alja, because you have a new puppy yourself, and you also work with puppies quite a lot. We said, okay, we have adult dogs and they can have behavioral issues, and these can be connected to walks. when we talk about puppies, hopefully they don't have behavioral issues or they don't have them yet. So how can we adjust their walks so that they grow up into happy, healthy individuals to avoid behavioral issues in the future?
Well, I mean, with puppies especially, you need to keep in mind that everything is new for them, right? You've taken them from their mom, from everything they knew, and now you've moved them somewhere else. You're a new person. Everything around you is new, and it's going to be new for the next several months, because in addition to, their routines and everything changing, there's also just so much about the world they don't know yet. Like my puppy yesterday, we just wandered a bit further than usual, and we got to the main road, and he saw a car, and he was like, "What?" So we were just standing there and just observing cars for a while, and then we just went back. Because they will be worried about stuff, especially in the beginning when they don't know you yet, they don't trust you yet. They've lost everything they knew. And it's just really important to keep that in mind when we're walking them. So we should really be keeping everything short. It should be, again, the general rule is about 5 minutes per month of age, but that's just the general rule, because sometimes, again, I see with my puppy, we just go downstairs and he pees and he wants to go straight back up. And sometimes he just wants to lie down and observe. And we've been out for, 30, 45 minutes just lying down, observing. And then he just kind of walks around a little bit. And then but it's not a walk. When we talk about walks, right? People imagine, again, going from A to B. But it's really about spending quality time with the puppy. So just keep in mind, everything's new. So if there's not much going on in the environment, they will be able to spend more time outside, but it shouldn't be physical activity so much. There should be a bit of play, a bit of lying around, rolling around, chasing bees and stuff like that.
Pigeons, I hear, are very popular as well.
Really interesting, but yeah, we'll have to work on that. It is a hunting breed too, so the general rule is just keep everything short and just look at your puppy. Because with mine, I do take him new places every other day or so, but we don't go more than maybe 30 meters away from the car. I pretty much follow him around, and when he wants to go back, he just goes back to the car. And if he wants to go back home, he will want to go in the car when I open it. If he doesn't want to go home yet, and if he just wants to keep observing, he'll show me by not wanting to go in the car. Again, it will be different with every puppy, because some puppies don't like cars, or they get too worried in new environments. But just keep that in mind. Roughly, if you stick to the rule that you don't spend more than 5 minutes per month in one go outside, you're doing it right. But again, in these, so now we're doing 10, 15 minutes maybe in one go. We go outside. We don't even go more than maybe 50 meters away from the apartment, because then you can see from him being all tail wagging and exploring and sniffing to just kind of slowing down, looking more worried. He's stopping more. So that's kind of where we stop. We observe a little bit, and then we go home. And then the next time he'll just go further and further, because he's learned that this is safe. So we've come to a point now where I have to be really careful, because he's learned that, okay, if I'm over there, I'm there, that's fine, that's my safe spot, and he'll just go. And I'm already sometimes he'll go out of my eyesight, but then if I move, he's suddenly there, so he always knows where I am. But yeah, it's just about letting them sniff, observe, explore, and take the time to take it all in. Because everything's just so new for them. So
can we mention the physical aspect as well? Because behavior and health, they're all connected. So puppies are still growing, they're still developing. What do we have to be careful of when we're walking with puppies?
Yeah, they're at the same time very fragile, but also very bouncy. It's made his way to, because if we fell the way children fall sometimes, I don't think anybody would be able to pick us back up, right? And puppies are kind of the same. They will fall over. There'll be accidents, but if we keep it in safe areas, like on grassy fields and soft ground and stuff like that, everything's going to be fine. But the thing is, their muscles are still developing. Their joints haven't developed yet. They're growing like really, really fast. So it's really easy to get those joints damaged, to get the bones damaged, muscles damaged. So, and the thing with puppies is also they like to be around us. They won't just stop and wait, and if we continue walking, they won't follow. They will. They'll follow us. They'll keep going and going and going, even when they're unable to do that anymore. So we really have to be careful about how much activity we give them. So that's one of the reasons also why it should be in shorter bursts throughout the day. So if we have an adult dog, we'll maybe take him for a walk 2-3 times a day in larger, half an hour or 20 minutes to an hour sort of, and we add up to that hour and a half that I mentioned before, right? But with puppies, I think in the end, we're going to be out for the same amount of time, but we're going to do it 10 minutes and then 2 hours sleep and 10 minutes again, and then an hour sleep and 10 minutes again, and so on and so on. So it just needs to be in shorter amounts so their bodies have time to keep up, because that'll be serious damage. And you'll see, if you observe your puppy, if he's too tired, if it's been a bit too much for his joints and muscles, he'll be walking stiffly, he won't be as bouncy anymore. He may even fall over, especially larger breeds. They just get really wobbly because they don't have the muscles yet. So yeah, that's kind of the thing.
Yeah. So very interesting points about puppies. I think the general trend is doing too much with them too. And another general trend that we want to talk about are the so-called active walks, where people take their dog out and they do a lot of playing with the ball, just the fetch, and they do obedience exercises, and they do a lot of training all the time with the dog. So they say, oh, that's good, that's mental stimulation, that's we need to keep our dog active, and they're doing sports, agility, all sorts of things all the time during the walks. So what is your take on them?
Again, we're not with walks like that, we're not really taking into account what a walk for a dog should be. Because if we look at the dog's ethogram, they spend most of their time, even when awake, just lying around, walking around, doing everything really, really slow, observing, sniffing. And as I said before, play is typical mostly for younger dogs. There will be individual differences and breed differences, but they're, as a species, they're not made to do a lot of running around and chasing and fast activity, and that will lead to damage physically and mentally in the long run. So personally, I don't do dog sports or stuff like that at all, or throw balls, things like that. I guess if you really, really, really like that sort of stuff, maybe a little bit of that won't hurt your dog every now and then, but you have to keep in mind that's for you, not for your dog, because most dogs wouldn't choose that sort of activity at all. But that should be just a little bit of extra, maybe the fun stuff you have with your dog, not the majority of stuff. The majority should be the dog sort of walks, right? With a lot of sniffing, a lot of doing nothing, pretty much, from our point of view. And the interesting thing, because I do actually see a lot of dogs that used to be walked like that, with a lot of ball chasing, a lot of agility, a lot of obedience and stuff like that. And when the owners switch to this, let's call it just the dog way of walking, they tell me that they've relaxed much more, that they actually now find their walks with their dog really calming, rather than another obligation in the day, when they had to do all that. Because many people also think they have to do all that stuff to keep the dog entertained, but really just spend time with your dog, just do nothing. It's really nice to do nothing every now and then, because our schedules are full as well, right? From work to school to all sorts of stuff. We're just constantly on the go, and the time you spend with your dog on a walk, it should really be relaxing for both of you. So
yeah. And I think it also worth mentioning the sense of safety. So yesterday I've been in dog park and I saw it all, and I saw especially lots of people doing obedience exercises and making their dog sit and wait and heel. So when dog is involved in this sort of obedience exercises, it actually doesn't have time to respond adequately to stimuli like other dogs, doesn't have an opportunity to communicate using the body language with other dogs, doesn't have opportunity to, let's say, move away from a stimuli that's not pleasant, maybe people running or bicycles running, and it does impact the sense of safety in the dog. So eventually the dog will be feeling more and more unsafe, and you also becoming part of this context. So I think also what people are getting wrong when they're doing this walk, active walks, is they say, I want my dog to be engaged with me, to pay attention to me. But when you're walking just nicely on a long lead, sniffing, you're bonding much more. You're enjoying the time together. Your dog feels you as part of the safe space, being able to just feel nicely, relax and observe things and take it in, as you say. So yeah, I think there is just a little bit of misconception around this aspect of the human-dog relationship as well, and how it impacts a dog's sense of safety.
Yeah. And also, once the dog learns different exercises, whatever they are, it can be recall, it can be, I don't know, just walking nicely on leash, stuff like that. They don't need to practice that all the time. They are really good and fast learners. So if you give them the time to do their stuff, they are also more likely to actually follow your lead when they need to. At least that's my experience, because if we just keep pushing demands on them, and if we just keep telling them what to do, and it's always us planning everything and they don't get a say, at some point many dogs just start to rebel or something. They just stop doing what we tell them to do. I've seen that in a shelter dog, actually. That's one of the things that got me into the whole dog thing in the end. There was this dog that he would do anything, because we used to do a lot of trick training with them, and I've been through that. So it's not just me, sharing all the theory with everyone. I've been through trick training and clicker training and all sorts of training methods and positive motivation, stuff like that, before I started doing things the way I'm doing them now. And I remember there was this dog, he would just do everything, just pretty much everything you tell him to do. He would learn really fast. He got every trick in the book instantly. And then one day I got there to walk him and he just refused to do anything. He wouldn't respond anymore at all. And it was just really, I didn't know what was going on back then, right? But and also I don't know enough about his health status and all that stuff, if there was anything else going on. But it was just a really, it was shocking for me, because it was just a dog that would at first do everything, and then suddenly he didn't want to interact anymore. He still wanted to go on his walk, obviously. He lived in a shelter, nothing was happening to him for 23 hours a day. But yeah, it's just a reminder maybe that we don't always know what our dogs want, and we should pay more attention to them. And just kind of keep in mind that they're not humans and they've got their own needs, and we should stop imagining that we know what those needs are all the time, because we don't. Something like that.
Yeah, such a good point. And also a dog that you see, I feel people also feel a lot, let's say, well, that dog looks so obedient and they are doing the tricks all the time, and that looks so cool. I wish I could do that with my dog. And it takes me always time to explain, it doesn't mean that dog is happy or does have a good relationship with the owner, even if they use positive methods. It just doesn't reflect on the quality of the dog's life at all.
Yeah. I think we should all just pay more attention, or actually take more time to learn about dog communication, about their language, because they do show how they are feeling. But sometimes you have to just be really, really good at it to notice all that stuff, because it's the little things. He maybe gets tense before the treat comes. Or maybe while he's sitting down, when you tell him to sit, maybe he'll be licking his lips and his ears will go back, just briefly. Just, you can, if you don't believe me, look into calming signals, read the books by Turi Drugas, and there's this really good book by Rosie Laurie, I think, also about communication. Film your dog while you're doing activities with him, and start to look for those signs, because dogs don't lie. They will do the stuff we tell them to do. They like to interact with us, but they will also do stuff they don't like to do just because they're doing it with us. So it's up to us to just notice those signs and just adjust the activities so that we're both enjoying them, not just the human part, right?
Yeah, and I put on the link to our website with the resources page, where you can find more resources on calming signals, the book. I think the one that you mentioned isn't there, but the Ture Drugas one is there, and the calming signals website is there. So definitely check it out. And yeah, I think we should all remember that those all the things that we just talked about, walks, are part of the puzzle of the dog's well-being, and part of the behavior issues. Part of the puzzle is sign that something wrong is going on. So looking at the walks as well is really important. So thank you, Alja. That was fascinating.
Thanks for having me.
This was really great. Thanks, Alja.
Thank you very much.
We hope that it was useful for people watching. We didn't get any questions today. Maybe next time, maybe later. And we'll see you soon. Bye.
Yeah. And just a very, very quick note, Alja's website is here for people in Slovenia. Please take a look on Alja's website. I think it has lots of good information as well. So again, thank you all for joining. See you next month. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.